So some of the sales-focused enhancements, there are a number of them, but the featured ones are some forecasting improvements where sales reps can add their own personal forecasting commitments and send them to the managers. A couple of new fields for sugar market customers, which is the market score field and market interest prediction fields in contacts and leads. Also, group email accounts can be added now as a preferred sending account. And if you are a Sell Premier customer, Sugar Maps is a really cool feature that's been added. So I will go through and show you how these look in Sugar. Oops. So some of the list view enhancements go into contacts module. So pagination controls have been added to the list views. Previously, you'd have to click show more and records would populate below the list, resulting in you having to scroll through multiple records with no way to easily jump further down the list. With the pagination controls, you can see the total number of pages of records there are, and you can scroll through the pages to see the records in a more simplified way. They also added a fixed header in this release. So prior to the release, when you scroll down the list view, the field heading disappeared, making it difficult to remember the column header corresponding to the data in each column. Now the header is fixed, so as you scroll through the records, you can easily identify the column header corresponding to the data you're viewing. Also, similarly, when you scroll through the list horizontally, there was no way to see the name associated with the records you're viewing. So in this release, the first column will be frozen by default. So as you scroll through multiple columns, you can easily see the name of the record associated to the data. So this feature will be available by default in 12.0, but admins can toggle this feature on and off in the system settings screen. So for admin changes, there are a few cool changes in the drop-down editor. We'll get to that. So one is for the sales stage, as I mentioned earlier. And as you can see, a classification option is added to any of the custom sales stage in Studio. So the classifications will default to open automatically, but they can be edited according, they can be edited so you can map them according to the existing values in the database. So whatever you have set in the database, you can set the sales stage to that classification. Another cool feature is the translation comparison language dropdown. So this dropdown right here, if you have a preferred language set to Spanish, for example, with the added comparison language dropdown field, you select the language that you want to compare against, and the selected language and existing language will both appear next to each other, so you can quickly identify the translations. And if a translation is not available, an icon will appear next to the value, indicating that both the translation and the start language are the same, so you can edit that. So that makes it a lot easier. Before, English was always displayed in the language dropdown field, and admins would have to export the dropdown list and then import it back after translation. So this would make it a lot easier. And we've got some cool features added to forecast. So in right here, 12.0 release gives sellers the ability to make their own forecasting deal commits to help managers make informed commits for their reps. So prior to this change, individual contributors didn't have the ability to make their own forecasting commits for their deals. So if their managers said they're going to close less revenue than they had forecasted, there was no way to communicate that through CRM. But in this release, sellers have the ability to enter their personal forecast in the forecasting worksheet and send it to their manager. And then managers can make forecasting calls for their team and for individual sales reps by making the team forecasting field editable. Managers will also be able to see if the team member adjusted the commitment lightly. So that can be entered here, and that will be sent directly to the manager. So that's a pretty useful feature. Also, if you use Sugar Market, Sugar Sell, or Enterprise, there are a couple of new fields which were added to the leads and context module. So one is the market score field, and another is a market interest prediction. So these are auto-generated market score interest prediction on your leads or contacts, so you can understand. So for market score field, this is based on their engagement with the market content that you send them, and this gives you greater insight into your contacts and/or leads to use the data in a selling or marketing context. For market interest prediction, this represents a likelihood a lead or a contact will convert to an opportunity based on a 1 to 5 score, where 1 is a very low likelihood and 5 is a high likelihood. So these fields are not actually available by default. So an admin would have to go in and add the fields to the layout through Studio so they can be visible. Another feature for Sell is adding a group email account. So from the emails module, so prior to this release, you were not able to add a group email account to send emails as your preferred email account. In this release, a new checkbox is added called the preferred sending account, and that's available in the outbound email module. And that allows you to select from the accounts you have access to and set a group email account as preferred. And then for those using the Sugar Premier Edition, you'll now have access to Sugar Maps. So this is a really cool feature that uses an integration with Bing Maps, and it shows you all your records plotted directly on the map. You can see the proximity of one record to the others. You can also see driving directions from your address to a record or from one record to another. So this is pretty neat. So I will hand it over to Dana to go through some of the service-focused enhancements that are in version 12.
Thank you, Anjum.
Get there.
So originally, there were several service-focused capabilities that were only available to serve license user or enterprise license users. Now, this case management tool within the serve license and the release management tools are also available to Sugar Sell users in the release 12. So that's a pretty neat added feature to Sugar Sell. The case management tool, obviously, this is using the case module. It allows you to track and manage your customer requests, and then they can request assistance for your specific products and services. And the release management tool, this is actually users have now more customizable experience, and this is related to the bugs module as well.